Evening all. Thanks for joining in. I'm going to show you how to use the beast cheats properly. And I've been promising to do this for a while, but there's been many false starts and stupid mistakes done. But finally getting around to it properly. So thanks to all that have previously bought the first version of the beast cheats. And for all the feedback. I've taken a lot of the feedback on board and tweaked the design just a touch to make it more user friendly for everyone, not just myself. So the new version comes in this little string, and as you can see it's smallest through to largest, so there's no trying to figure out which cone you need to use first. You just start at the small one, work your way up to the big one. So it's 6 cones in total, which will make a fly, depending on what you add. If it's just bucktail, using 3-inch bucktail like this, the fly is going to end up being around about 10 inches long, depending on the spacings that you put through. So I generally tend to tie these 10 to 11 inch for GTs would be my main quarry for these. So I'm using 3/4 inch gaps between each one. There's a few tricks and things that I've figured out to make these a bit easier, but these are mainly designed to be used for crappy bucktail that we get over here in Europe. Is how they came about. Trying to tie hollows and beast flies and whatnot with subpar tails gets quite difficult. So this just kind of helps with the process. As you can see, each cone has a different flare. So the smallest is a 20 degree going up to a 45 degree. Is that right? 25 degree going up to 45 degrees. My maths is a bit odd sometimes. So each one gets progressively steeper and creates that nice baitfish profile. So this is completely unwashed. This is straight out the vise. I just tied this one. You'll see obviously the picture in the front is a fully finished fly with fancy head, etc. But for this one, I'm just going to do the tail, and we'll power through the head on a speed mode, because everyone knows how to do that. So the mono I've got, a bit of straightened mono, which is a 60 pound hard mono. I'm just melting the end there, and I'm going to pop it into my vise. Now you can tie this by hand, sorry. I've taken a liking to putting it into the vise. Now obviously I would normally use a Nor vise, but I have the Snowbee Waldron. Quite like it for these because I'm able to get the vise to sit a bit higher off the table, and I'm adjusting the jaws so they're higher up to give me the space to work with the mono. Keeps the mono in a straight line as well. So this is just a couple of strands of lateral scale, 3 strands in total, and I'm just pulling it round. This is going to create a little flash in the tail section, just like so. Trim those off a touch. I have, I should say, I've also pre-cut the bucktail that I need, just to speed the video up. As you can see, each bunch gets progressively thicker as you go from the tail up. And the reason being is it builds density as you go forward, so the tail starts quite sparse, and as the cones get wider, you're able to get more hair underneath. For me personally, I find half the thickness of the cone to 3/4 thereabouts is enough bucktail per tie point. If you use too much bucktail, you won't be able to get the cone all the way back over the point where it needs to be. So this is not fancy bucktail. This is a bucktail that I got from Vineyards in the UK. It's a mix of, well, first tie point is a fluoro red, because this will be a kind of a flaming Lambo beast. And I've just put the mono in backwards to tie the tail point in, just because it's a bit easier. And with each tie point I'm using super glue or CA glue to seal in all the thread wraps. Now the thread I'm using on this is a 140D gel spun, just because you're able to really crank down on the pressure. Tempted to get a bit of nano silk to see what that's like on these, but yeah, I've got a lot of thread to burn through first before I get onto new threads. So I've just laid a little base down there. I know some of the guys doing beast flies will coat the entire mono. Personally, I find you don't really need to. It stiffens the mono up a bit, so on the softer mono it does help to tie on it if you stiffen it up. But my thinking as well at the same time is, if you're stiffening your mono, why don't you just start with a slightly stiffer mono anyways. That's personal opinion anyways. I built a little thread bump, which I'll show you properly on the next tie point. Built a little thread bump just to stop this sliding too far back. Now I've just 2 loose wraps. Place the bucktail there, and I'm just making sure it's 360 degrees around the mono, and then locking it down with more thread wraps. And just trim off those butt excesses there. Now I should say all the hair that I've pre-prepared, it's all 3-inch hair, so it's not super long. Obviously if you have longer bucktail you can make even nicer looking beasts than these, but I'm just going to pop a little bit of angel hair. This is saltwater angel hair, so slightly thicker than your standard angel hair. Make sure it's all the way around, trim off the excess, and we're just going to put another drop of super glue on those thread wraps. Now, same as if you're tying a hollow, same as you would normally do it, what you want is your edge wrap. I'm just going to tie this off so I can show you. Your end wrap needs to be 90 degrees to your mono, and the reason being is you still want a neat edge to push that bucktail back. You still want a neat edge on the edge of that fly, so that the cone can sit nice and snug against that bucktail. Because if you don't, it's gonna sit a bit funny. When I put the cones on to my bobbin, I basically just push it through, line up the center hole, push it through, and then trim off the rest. Just going to leave it on the bobbin there, because what helps is if you trim off your mono at an angle, to help you slide that cone on, just like so. Just making sure that this is all nicely pushed up against that thread wrap, so when you pull it back, it holds it nicely in shape. Right, so that'll how it'll be. Pull that back, a drop of super glue, not on the hair itself, just in front of the hair, and then push that cone nice and snug back on to the bucktail, and then That's your first piece. Now I'm not measuring this because I know I have a little point on the device here that I line the cone up with, which gives me my even spacing. So you can mark it with a marker on a ruler before you put it in, but I've done a load of these. So this is a little thread bump that I'm doing, just a little thread bump just on the back of there that'll flare the bucktail a bit more. So as I was saying, you can use a little bit of you can use a marker to mark your tie points as you go as well. So for the tapping out, bit annoying. Just trying to line up the butt ends of this bucktail. Just going to trim off the edge a bit there. It's a little bit uneven still. Again, as before, 2 loose wraps, push it all down around the mono. Just going to spin up that thread a bit stronger, and I'm going to put some pressure. There we go. Take the few more strands of angel hair. Push it all the way around. 2 nice wraps. Now, as I said before, let's spin this up again. This edge of the tie-in point towards the front of the bucktail, or towards the front of the fly where the cone is going to go, you want the thread to be 90 degrees to the mono. And the reason that is, like I said before, is so you get a nice tight fit of the cone onto the base of the bucktail. Otherwise, what you do is your cone will sit skew, and then you won't get the correct profile that you want. So again, just popping the cones onto my foam, pushing it through. So it's sitting on the, whatchamacallit, sits onto the needle nice and easy. Again, as you can see, I know some people were heating bodkins and pushing the bodkins through to create the space, but the plastic that these cones are built out of is very stretchy, so stretches up to, I think it's 500%, and will return to its original state. So you can afford to stretch it out quite a bit before you put it on, because it will kind of shrink back. Again, drop a super glue on the mono. So I'm going to slide this cone back. It goes in nice and snug. There we go. Take it out, just line it up a touch. Make sure that hair doesn't get trapped in the cone too badly. Pop it in again. A little mark, which is 3/4. And you kind of get used to how much thread you need to put down. This will be in total about 5 mils of thread base. Doesn't need a lot. Put that little thread dam up against there for the butt ends. Spin that up. Now, I should say this one, I've actually got a blend of 2 different bucktails, so it's a fluoro red and a standard red, both from Vineyards, both similar 3-inch hair. I'll try and do this on my thing so it doesn't make as much noise. I think I might need to put it into Sorry for the tapping, folks. So, it's looking a bit better. Make sure there's no short hairs in there. One thing I found with using these cones is short hairs aren't, to be honest, a super issue. You can use some quite short hairs in this and get away with it. So that was 2 loose wraps again, as normal. Pushing it around with my thumb and then pulling down on with my thread hand while pinching it so that it holds it all in place. And some locking wraps. There we go, making sure that front wrap is nicely perpendicular to the mono. Again, as before, bit of red saltwater flash, saltwater angel hair. Don't worry about the mess. We'll clean that up there with a pair of scissors. Just clean off any excess hair on there. So as you go forward, like the cones open up a touch, so you don't want it too dirty behind, or too untidy behind the cone, because you can start to see it as they open up. What's this? What do we have left? 4 cones left. Yeah. So this is the halfway point of the tail. Obviously, if you're not talking, you can go a lot faster than I'm doing now. So again, this is the third smallest. Okay. Just trimming off the little bits that are holding it. Sliding it onto my mono as before. And pushing it in. There we go, just making sure it's nice and snug. Using my nail to push up the bucktail right against that thread behind it, so that we get a nice fit. Okay, just drop a super glue just in front of the bucktail. Push it on, pull it tight up against the the tie point. So as you can see, that profile is already taking place profile's already building quite nicely. Again, if you want, YouTube has a speed up version, or speed up button in the settings, because the next 3 tie points are going to be exactly the same, but the only difference is as I get closer to the front, the tie points get a bit bulkier to allow, because there's more rooms in the cone, so it builds up bulk as you go forward. So each bunch, as I said earlier, gets slightly bigger. Right, just going to tap this again. Sorry for the noise. I need to get a new one of these because that one's so small. But you know what? It's done me well because I've had it for so long. Clean off those excess bits on the end there. As before, 2 wraps. And spread it round. Add a bit of pressure once it's all the way around. There we go. A little bit more. Angel hair. super glue I'm using, I should say, is a super thin glue that's on the brush. It's a generic one that I just fill a little brush bottle with, but it's super thin. Well, I don't know if it's generic, it's a brand that I got here in Europe. I get it in big bottles, and I just top up my my bottle when it's running low. It just helps with the super thin helps penetrate all the way through all the layers of thread, kind of wicks it all the way down. And then I'm using a slightly thicker glue on the mono in front. Okay, just pulling that nice and tight. Making sure that's all nice and neat. Drop the super glue. Oops. There we go. Push that in. Put it back nice with your fingers. That's coin number 4. You shall see as the as you can see that each angle is slightly more flared. Again, there's no need to build thread dams, etc. So makes it a coins, I find, make it a bit more quick to tie, personally speaking, and as I'm a commercial tyer, anything that makes life a bit easier for me, I'll do. Okay, I'm just gonna even up these ends. I'm just gonna blend this a bit more. This is still red and fluoro red. It's the second to last tie point. Oops. Get it all in there. Right, sorry for the banging, folks. That's probably quite annoying. In there, there's one really long one that's in the way. Again, just 2 wraps. Just squish it down. Again, using the GSP, you can really put a lot of pressure on the bucktail, kind of flare just a touch as well. And this is not great quality bucktail, so there's not a huge amount of flare in it, as you can see, and it would be quite difficult to get a decent profile without the cones on this, just because of the quality of the hair. The cones, you don't have to worry about thread dams in the front lining everything up, trying to make things neat. Cones kind of, if you've got your fundamentals like your thread wraps 90 degrees to the mono, you'll have no issues creating a good profile. So like I said, it doesn't make anyone able to tie a beautiful beast instantly. You still need a few fundamentals to get it right, but what it does, speeds up time. You always get that correct angle of the flare for the profile, and yeah, it just makes them tying them a bit quicker, a bit easier. You'll see when this fly is fully finished, it does look quite sharp. Just making sure it's all the way around, nice and even. As you can see, each tie point as well has gotten slightly thicker as you go forward, and each one ends up being about 3/4 the thickness of the diameter of the cone. Half to 3/4 I think is the kind of sweet spot, but you can experiment as you go. In regards to durability, I know there was some questions as to durability. I mean, these are pretty durable. There's not really, the cone helps protect the thread wraps, less chance of a wayward tooth, and they work really well as well. I've done a lot of damage in the Seychelles this past season, and the season before I believe as well. Lots of you guys using them out there. So yeah, and they're holding up to giant trevally, so they'll definitely hold up to a lot of other species as well. So now the last tie point is just straight up red, because I don't have to mix it. I've got butter slapping it on the counter and making a noise and annoying people. Again, this is the last tie point for this one. There we go. This red is actually a bit nicer to tie off than the fluoro red. It's got a bit more hollowness to it, so flares a bit better. Body. So last bit of angel hair going on for this tail. Almost your beast tail done. Last wrap is 90 degrees. That front end. Okay. Last cone going in. All the way around. Just push it back up with your nail, same as the other 6. Just like so. Right. Let's drop the super glue going on there. Evenly distributed around the cone, and that is the beast cheeked tail. And that is going to make a really nice flaming Lamborghini beast. So I've just swapped vices here, just to speed up the video, because otherwise it's really long. Hookwise SL1280. I'm just going to flatten the mono. Just makes it easier to tie in. Leaves a little the pliers leave some nice little grooves in the mono, help lock it in place, especially with a bit of super glue. Left about a 1/2 inch gap between the last cone and the hook. Then it's just red bucktail, bit of angel hair. Now I'm not going to hollow tie this, I'm actually going to bullet tie it and use the flare of the bucktail to get the right shape. Drop super glue there just to seal in those thread wraps again. And then I'm using some fluoro red Here as well, I'm going to flare it just slightly more with another bullet tie. It's a bit of a speedy way to cheat a hollow tie using the butt ends to support the bucktail when you flare it with a thread. So just creating a doubling loop, because I'm going to make a bucktail doubling loop head using a little spring tool that I made for the Norvise, which is really handy. And you can't see it in there, but it's just straight bucktail, bit of fluoro orange, bit of red, fluoro orange to the back, red at the front, and I'm just mixing the two colours there slightly to the back, so laying them over each other to get a bit more of a fade into that head. Just going to spin it up, brush out any trapped hairs, then just wrap it forward. Once you finish wrapping, now this is using some heavy duty gel spun thread, so it's going to be GSP thread, so it's going to be really strong brush, 5 strands all together, so it's not going to go anywhere. Tie it off. So this is the finished beast. Still needs another rinse. I gave it one rinse and let it hang dry before I added the eyes. Well, JC eyes should I say. And coated the nose with Gorilla Glue crystal clear just to seal in that head cement. And yeah, that's your finished beast with the beast cones. Do some more videos as we go along, but hopefully that's good enough to get you guys tying with them and a few tips to help you out. But main ones is start off sparse. As you move forward, bulk up the stacks of bucktail you're using. If you want to add feathers, which I'm going to do in another video, tie them in front of the cones, I find. So you put your cone on, leave it in the vise, tie your feathers in, so they're just in front of the cones. If you have ostrich, you can actually tie that ostrich in the same time as the bucktail, and use the cone to hold it back. But again, do some more videos. But that's your cheat. I need to go and hang dry this again because it's got to be shipped at the end of this week. So I'm going to go give it another rinse and another hang overnight. But yeah, thanks for watching, and yeah, hopefully the beast cheats help some folks out. Cheers.